Bada bing, bada boom. Howdy, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good Easter. You better be having Easter with your family and not fucking. Sorry, I'm just not here with me. Watch this in post, okay? Nonetheless, I thought I'd do a quick little Q&A, stream, answer some questions, but also I just want to review a book because I got suckered in. I got bullied into this. Between Two Fires by some guy. This book, I saw this all the fuck over Twitter. It was just on Twitter forever. Actually, where can I just bring this book up? Now, I'll just yap. This book, everyone was like, oh my God, this is still the greatest fantasy from the last year. Shalom, another guy. Like, oh my God, it's like, recent modern fantasy. Oh my God, it's so good. People like, this is the Dark Souls of literature. Sorry, actually, let me get rid of freaking Jeffrey Epstein's Island. It's distracting me now. Visual. How do I get the edit avatar? No, that's not what it is. Edit background? Yeah, there we go. Burger King deadlift routine, what? But yeah, this book, Dark Souls of literature, Dark Souls of fantasy. And I was like, and I kept seeing it. People being like, oh, it's good. You probably won't even be able to handle this. This is the number one horror. So it's like medieval fantasy. Yeah, like, I don't know. The algorithm bullied me into it. I think I just got suckered. So I bought it and I read it. And just to tell you all, it's good. But the thing about this is, you have to understand, it is actually good. But there was it could have been the greatest. It could have been Cormac McCarthy writing Gnostic fantasy. But it wasn't. But there's signs of it. And it's like, first two chapters are just introducing the characters. In the third chapter, you get a little bit of that fantasy element, because it's also set in our world. It's set in France in like the Middle Ages during the plague. So it's kind of like, and at first I was like, oh, is this going to be cringe? Because if it's set in our world, there's a limit to the magic system, so to speak. But they got around that all right. Kind of just having isolated things, and then, what would you say? Sort of isolated things, and then isolated events happening, and then when the events transpires, it's kind of like hearsay, and you hear stories of the peasants are just overreacting, it's bandits, and then it's not a bandit, it's actually a monster, but the monster's quite kind of, he did it well. He's a good writer. And like, I would say, if you read this book and you get to chapter 5, once you read chapter 5, if you enjoyed that, you'll love the rest of the book. It's good, but it's split into 5 parts. And it escalates. It's kind of like a knight, a young girl, and a monk or an ex-priest kind of just walking through. It's people like, oh, it's Dark Souls. No, it's not Dark Souls. It's an anime from the 2000s. Remember animes like Samurai Champloo, where you would just go from there's a story. Oh, we got to find this samurai. But the story is just a thread, the thinnest veneer of a thread to stitch together different scenes. And the scenes are what's fun. The episodes that proceed through, fucking birds, Jesus Christ. The episodes that proceed through are what matters. And it's like, there's one episode where they go baseballing. There's one episode which is more of a horror. That's kind of like what this book is about. It's just a girl who has visions, kind of a disgraced knight and an old monk, traveling through the countryside, and each chapter is like an episode of an anime. It's like one chapter, there's the castle, which they go into and everything's weird, and then some things happen, and then in the morning the castle disappears. Oh, it was an illusion. One of those episodes. And then there's the Save the Villagers episode, and there's the episode where there's one village where everyone's weird, they're all penitents, and they're all kind of weird about it, and there's like this dichotomy here and there. It's good. It's a good book. It's a good story, but there's one thing in this book. In part 3, so there's different chapters, but he cuts it into like different parts. And in part 3, I think it's at either the beginning or the end of part 3, he does something so sexy and then literally drops it and never speaks of it again. So the young girl, she has visions, but she's from like this family. Her dad was like a lawyer in a small town, and so he educated her. So she's really well read. She knows Latin. She knows who Thomas Aquinas is. The knight doesn't really know. The knight's kind of like a hedge knight that actually got to a high point and then fell. So he's more rough around the edges, but he's good. He's good, right? And then the priest kind of knows Latin and knows some certain things. And there's this one bit where the priest gets tempted by a demon in a kind of a magic vision or in a dream or something. And there's this implication, and the demons all look good. Like, that's the one thing about this book that is Dark Souls. All of the monsters kind of do have a Dark Souls aesthetic. Like, there's this one bit where they're in the poor section of a town, and everyone in the town's like, of a city. They're in the poor section of a city, and they're like, at night, don't go outside. And if you hear anything outside, don't open the doors. And then it's kind of like this thing of moving statues going around that have glowing eyes, and it's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of like a Dark Souls boss. Some of the monsters feel like Dark Souls bosses, that's for sure. But there's this one demon, looks kind of like a person, but instead of eyes, there's just extra mouths. It's kind of silly if you think about it, but the way he does it, it's like, oh, that is kind of creepy. But there's this demon, and he kind of has this weird thing with a priest, and he tries to convince the priest, it's like, that girl, she isn't all that she says she is. And then there's this bit and he tries to get the priest to kill the girl, like hypnotize him. And the priest almost kind of commits and then doesn't, and then wakes up and is like, oh, was that a dream? And then the girl kind of comes to him while he's still drowsy and is like peeking over, almost kind of creepy. And it's this vibe, and she's like, you wouldn't kill me, right? And it's like, no, I would never do that. And there's this thing where he's, I thought I saw something. It's like, yeah. And she just says something about, yeah, that was Bernard. And I'm like, Bernard? He's like, yeah, Bernard of Clairvaux. And I'm like, what? He made Bernard of Clairvaux a fucking demon? Bernard of Clairvaux is like the number one. He's the number one saint boy. People think it's Francis of Assisi. People think St. Augustus or something. But really, Bernard of Clairvaux is the closest thing to Christ. And in this book, he's a demon. It's like, even in Dante's Divine Comedy, Dante goes, after he leaves the Inferno, he goes through purgatory. Once he goes into Paradiso, there's angels, there's this, there's that. He sees Solomon at one point. He sees all these people from history. And when he gets right to the center of the Empyrean, and he sees the Virgin Mary, it's like the very last thing before God himself. He sees, like, Bernard is there, Saint Bernard at the foot of the Virgin, and it's like, that's how highly regarded Saint Bernard is. And in this book, he makes Bernard a demon. I'm like, that's a weird choice. And then the girl says, yeah, people think he's a saint, but he's actually in hell, and that's like what my dad told me. And then she just says this thing, and it's like, people like him, because Bernard in real life was pro-Inquisition. Oh no, it was Crusades and killing heretics. And then she says something like, yeah, men like him are the reason my dad had to leave, because they accused him of being a Cathar. And I was like coming in my pants. I was like, oh my fucking God. Is this not a medieval fantasy, but a dark Gnostic fantasy? Is he gonna go that route? But then he doesn't. He literally fucking never mentions that again. And I was like, because if he went that, the girl is actually a Gnostic priestess, and then all of the demons are actually saints, like canonical saints from our world, and then all of the angels are just somebody. Like, that would have been crazy. But he literally doesn't do that. He never mentions another demon. Well, whenever he mentions demon names after that, they're actually proper demon, like Beelzebub and all of that kind of stuff. And then, but other than that, it's like, so he never goes full Gnostic Cormac McCarthy, but it's still a good book. Like, it's not greatness. It's not greatness. It's not the Dark Souls fantasy I was promised. It's all right. It's all right. I just want to put that out there because so many people, I see it all the time on Twitter, people pumping that book, and like, I got suckered into it. And so now y'all know. Now y'all know. Ugh. Anyway, how's it going, chat? How's it going? Kimberly with the burbs. Yeah, there's burbs outside, all right. Ugh. Thoughts on aliens? Are they spiritual beings or beings from other stars? Both. Review of the 36 lessons of Vivek Wen. You know what? After this, I'll record that video. Lotum Moggs. Yes, it does. Freaking, what is it? Magus of the Media, where are you? Let's get on stream and talk Lotum. I really want to get on stream and talk Lotum with him. I almost feel, I never reread stuff, but I kind of feel like rereading Lotum just because it's something that begs to be reread. Reread that stuff about the Fourth Epoch again and wrap my head around it properly. Boo. Burb. Oh, sup, Rich. Sup, Wesley. How's it going? I feel like, sorry, what's this? I feel like you mentioned him in the past, but what do you think about Galahad Eridanus? Do you think he's LARPing? I haven't seen all of his videos in order, but I saw a couple of them. I saw, what is it? I think the Abraxas one, where he talks about Steiner. I saw his one on money magic, which is funny. And I'm like, and then I saw that recent one, which I think a lot of people, it trips them out on. But his most recent one about reality tunnels, and I'm like, no, this guy's solid. This guy's solid. He's not laughing. He may have been suckered by the egregor of Christianity and just gone full Jesus or something like that. But the thing about, he's solid because what he's realized, what he's done is he's combined kind of Jungian psychology with Kantian metaphysics. And so what does that mean? He has an understanding that there's a world of phenomena and then there's a world of noumena. But what is the noumena? The noumena is everything you cannot grasp with your reason. And so in that video on Reality Chambers, he says something like, what is it? He says something like, and it's anti-logical. That's the term he used. And I kind of likes that because it's like, because people want a system. People want to systematize that which is noumena. And it's like, no, you don't understand. If you could systematize it, it wouldn't be noumena. It's like intuition. Explain your intuition to me. Like, well, your intuition says this is correct. Well, then what's the reason? If you could reason it out, your mind would have reasoned it out, and it wouldn't be intuition then. You know what I mean? And so he has this understanding that it's like, what is the noumena? The noumena is the subconscious, or connected to the subconscious, because what's in the subconscious? When you interact with the subconscious, why don't dreams just tell me straight? Why is it always symbolic? Why does it always talk weird? And why does the universe use synchronicities? Because if it could tell you directly in a logical manner, it would. But it's like the way you perceive the world is a filter. We filter things out all the time, and that's good because, otherwise you wouldn't be able to tell up from down and left from right. So you filter different things out of the world. There are things in your perception that are filtered, and you see the world in a certain way. But unintentionally, there may be little nuggets. There may be important things that get filtered. And in fact, to be intelligent isn't to calculate a lot or have a big imagination. It's actually how strong your filter is. Because if you think about it, like a chess master isn't just someone who's good at calculating. A chess master can look at a chessboard and be like, black's winning. Just like a flash. You can flash it on the screen and they'll be like, white's winning. Or they can be like, oh, that game, that was the 1968 World Championship in Mexico. And like, they know the exact one. Why? Because every single other option that it can be is filtered out. They look at the board and it's filtered. It's like, that's just it. Boom. Our minds do that all the time. It filters reality. And Galahad Eridanus realized this. Our consciousness filters reality, and everything that is filtered out just goes into the subconscious and lumps there. And eventually, all of this knowledge, most of it's trash, is just filtered in there. But what if there's something important in there? Well, if there's something important that just keeps getting ignored, it's almost like the subconscious then arises and speaks. But how can it interact with you? Because your way of seeing the world, conscious, logic, reason, literally is the thing that filtered that out. So it can't speak to it in a rational way, because if it did, it would just either get filtered, or if it was rational, it would have been captured by the rational part anyway. The whole point is there's something anti-logical, unrational, super irrational about the world that cannot be systematized. And he explains that really well in that reality tunnel video, his most recent video, whatever it is. And he uses visual things, and he talks in a certain way. A lot of people are like, man, I'm not high enough to watch this video. It's like, no. If you understand Kant and if you understand Carl Jung, he's kind of reaching a connection there. It's your subconscious and the literal nominal world of reality are connected, are intertwined. The noumena, you can't see it, can't close the doors to metaphysics. Metaphysics exist, but you cannot see into the metaphysical world. We see phenomena, but you can't see noumena. By using Carl Jung, you have consciousness and you have subconsciousness. Can you interact? Can you talk with the subconscious? Yes. Well, your subconscious, your unconscious, and the noumena are intertwined. So if you can interact with your subconscious, the noumenal world, the noumena, the thing and what's in the noumena? Gods, angels, demons, ancient beings, chthonic wisdom, transcendental knowledge is in the noumena. And it speaks to you. And so what he's describing in that video is him moving through that process, because as you interact with it, it does get represented in a certain way. And so he basically talks about it as reality tunnels, as going through this labyrinth. That's the subconscious. He's going through the subconscious, interacting with different symbols, and it's affecting his life and his synchronicities. And as something's affecting in the physical world, he's having these profound things internally. It's really beautiful. And in the end, I believe he comes to Jesus. And it's like, it is what it is. But if you understand what he's saying, it's actually quite profound. And it's actually good for him. Good for him. Bruh, I saw the post for the 6th and then changed to the 12th, but now you're here and I've missed on 10 minutes shaking my head. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Oh, what was the tarot card yesterday? It's in the secret chat. So you need to become a Gnostic hierarch. No. I'll tell you. It was a little lady standing between two pillars. That was what was on the card. My first time watching your stream live. Oh, welcome. What happened to the stream yesterday? OBS has just been messing me. That's why I'm like on StreamYard today. I'm thinking of actually just switching completely to StreamYard. Like I'll still probably use OBS to record videos. It's free, but because it's been updated recently, and then when I've gone into it, it hasn't been connected to my YouTube channel. So whenever I come in, I have to reconnect it to my YouTube channel, and then it always, maybe, who knows, maybe StreamYard will fuck up, and today the stream will still end in a horrible way. But yeah, it basically just dropped frame rates. I don't know, my internet is kind of funky, but yeah, usually the frame rate is around, 4,000, 2,000 to 4,000. And then it just like went to 8,000, and the KPS or whatever it is, dropped to 0 and just died. It just died. So I actually kept recording and read the last bit. So we're going to start the next chapter. Then I tried to upload it to Substack, and it didn't upload. And I was like, So we'll work on it. We'll work on it. We'll work on it. I'll work on it. Don't reread Lottam, just read Sky Pride. Sky Pride sounds kind of like a gay novel, if you know what I mean. Or regresses to. I kind of someone needs to bully me more into reading Regressive Tale, because I've heard a lot of good things about it. I'm like, yeah. Enigma. Serious question. How can you be a Rosicrucian but not a Nicene Gnostic Christian? Seems like a contradiction. Christ is the core to the Rose-Cross tradition. Yeah. That's true. Rosicrucianism is fundamentally esoteric Christianity. The thing is they're working it out, because it's also syncretic. There is a it's not pantheistic, it's more panentheistic. I should make a video on this. This kind of Christianity is panentheistic, their Christianity. And because it's panentheistic, it can also synthesize with Platonism, late Platonism, and Hermeticism. It's completely syncretic with those things. Now, it's not Hermeticism, it's not Neoplatonism, because it has the Christ at the core. It is fundamentally Christian. But it's not just basic bitch Christianity. It is a highly esoteric form of Christianity. Fundamentally, that's what Rosicrucianism is. And it's this thing. I would say one of the differences is there is also a bit of a Gnostic bent to it. How can you not accept Christ? Well, maybe by doing the Rosicrucian practices, it's not about you kind of, I need to change my opinion and now I've accepted Christ. It's about opening yourself. And that actually comes in a real way, not just a change of opinions. And what is Christ? Maybe Christ is the light. In the end, a lot of high-level Rosicrucian practices use this anyway. It's about incarnation of the word. Even their alchemy, it's about incarnation of the Philosopher's Stone is the Christ dressed in purple with a crown on the throne within your heart. Sorry to be gay, guys, but that's what it is in the end. That's what it is. Christ, he turned water into wine. Christ was the ultimate alchemist. Christ is the second Adam, the ultimate prototype. That's what alchemists are trying to do. And so is it a heresy to become Christ-like? No, that's what they're trying to do. There is an external Christ that calls out to you, and you're removing the barriers to that so it can come into you, but there's also an internal Christ that meets. And then the peepees touch. Is this heretical to say that? And a mixing happens, the white and the red. Is one feminine, one masculine? Can you call one Christ and one Sophia? Are they the same thing or are they different? This is where then you start to talk esoterically and you start to get into the nitty-gritties. RC orders claim to go back to Egypt before Atlantis, so they sort of skirt the facts. Yeah, and that's the other thing. The other thing is logos spermaticos. So for those who don't know, because it's this thing, before Christianity, did the Christ exist? Yes, because he's eternal. So where is the Christ in ancient religions? So this is the logos spermaticos theory, that in ancient religions, there is the logos there. But it's, everything's degenerated and they don't have and the Christ had to come to kind of redeem. So you may as well be Christian now. But the logos spermaticos idea allows for there to be wisdom in paganism. There's a weird thing, like nowadays all Christians are like, oh, pagans worship demons. That's not true. Christians need to get over that. Modern Christians need to get over the pagans worship demon things. Real demon worshippers are very, very rare. There are three types of pagans. Pagans that worship nature, pagans that worship ancestors, and pagans that worship, what would you say, some kind of abstract metaphysics like Platonism. And so when you have someone like a Platonist that's pagan, how do you view that as a Christian? Are they worshiping demons? Well, they're not worshiping anything. They're contemplating divine things. Maybe they don't have the Christ, and so you see them as lacking, but they're definitely not demon worshippers. And then it's like, well, what about the ancestor worship? Surely that's demonic. No. Why is respecting your ancestors demonic? And it's like they have all kinds of wank. Oh, leave he who leaves my father and walks with me. That's all the Christ said. It's like, shut the fuck up, bro. You should respect your ancestors. And there's nothing wrong with ancestor worship. Do they have the Christ? No, but it's not demons. And then there's nature worshippers. Nature is the daughter of God. Can you see that at least? And it's like, look, maybe they interact a little on the weird side with the intelligent forces of nature, but you can't be like, it's demonic. What, are you going to just make all of nature demonic? Are you going to become a Gnostic, bro? What the fuck are you? What do you do? What kind of dualism is this bullshit? They're not demon worshippers. They may lack the Christ, but you can't just like shit on pagans all the time. Nonetheless, modern Christians need to get over that shit. Can't let the Nicene Creed, blah, blah, blah. Dudemon, thank you for the membership. Welcome. Became a YouTuber. What level membership? Become a Gnostic enjoyer, and I'll see you on the secret chat. Let's do symbolic perspective change. For example, I see a symbol of a tool in a dream or in the astral, whatever. If I later associate with farmer with a symbol change, this is difficult because it's not that the symbols are eternal, but eternal things speak through the symbols. So this is where it's hard because, I don't know, you see a spinning swastika in a dream. Oh, no, I have to be a Nazi. It's like, no, there's something eternal behind that's trying to speak to you and indicate and tell you something. But there can be things that don't necessarily, what would you say, connect with, I don't know, kind of a modern understanding or what you would expect. So let me give you an example. One lady I was talking to once, she had a dream where she was doing something and then a rat came on her shoulder and she was speaking something and then it ran into her throat and she couldn't speak. And, we were all kind of talking and interpreting her dream. And it's like, oh, it's a rat, something dirty. Oh, it's, there's something negative coming into your speech and, you're aware, but then it's like she was speaking and it stopped her from speaking. How do you interpret that? Then someone who knew her in the group really well was like, wait a second, when you were like 16, didn't you have a pet rat? And she was like, yeah, I did. And it's like, so her relationship to rats was very different from normal women. She had a pet rat. So to her, a rat was actually a good symbol, almost like a cat or a pet dog. Like a dog, the friend of man. So for her, rats are positive. Okay, so the rat was trying to stop you from saying something. What was it trying to stop you from saying? And then she revealed in the dream she was a witch and she was about to do black magic. And the rat jumped on her shoulder and went into her throat and stopped her from speaking, from casting the spell. So it's like, what is that dream really saying? It's really she's got some darkness kind of inside her. But instead of being actualized, there's something positive in her, which is represented by the rat she had when she was her pet. Something primal and innocent. It's animalistic, but not animalistic. Animal as in primitive, as in simple. And it stopped her from doing something negative in the world. And so that's interesting. So there are eternal things, but we are all different. And so how the eternal thing clothes itself will be particular unto us. So maybe what we know and what we've experienced will change that thing. Like another one, my favorite one was, I knew this woman once who, she was raised an atheist, completely atheist, not religion bad, but they just didn't talk about religion. So she was completely atheist. She had nothing going for her and she got curious. And at like 19, she went to some new age fairs, went to this, went to that. And she did some workshop where this lady was like, I connect you with the highest part of your highest self, which Kabbalistically is what? It's Keter. It's the Ancient of Days. What's the symbol of the Ancient of Days? An old man? If you were a Taoist, what would you see when you do this meditation? Well, if you were a Taoist, you would maybe see the Jade Emperor in the sky. If you were a Greek pagan, maybe you'd see Zeus or Kronos. If you were a Norse pagan, maybe you'd see Odin. She didn't have anything. So what was she going to see? She had read Lord of the Rings. So she did this highest part of the highest self. And who came to her? Gandalf came to her. And she had an experience with Gandalf, but she didn't understand. She was like, Gandalf is my higher self? What? And then she tried asking the lady about it, who ran the freaking meditation workshop, and the meditation, that lady got like angry because she thought she was just making fun of a meditation style. Like, oh, what do you mean Gandalf came to you? Something silly. So it's this thing. There are eternal things, but they're noumena. And so when we interact with them, they have to put on a mask because we can't see them. They're invisible to us. So they put on a mask. They veil themselves, and in veiling themselves, a part of them is unveiled to us. And so this is why you shouldn't be drunk on symbols. I saw Hermes, therefore I am Hermes. Trismegistus, come again. Ah, it's like, no, you saw Hermes. What does that mean? What does it mean? Does it mean alchemy? Does it mean alchemy is what? What does it mean to you? How much alchemy have you studied? Is alchemy to just something transformative? Trismegistus, 3, is there something to do with 3? Hermes is also to do with Mercury. Who have you been talking to recently? Have you been talking to someone and you actually had a spiritual conversation and you've been looking for something and someone mentioned something, but you didn't kind of take notice of it, and so it's in you? And so what was Hermes' face like? Was it kind of like this person's face? You know, there's something there. You don't just take the symbol as it is. Yeah, am I kind of what I'm saying making sense? Anyway. Richard, have you read Boehm? The more I learn, the more influence I realize he has on the Western tradition. He's on the list. He's on the list. I'm only one man. And talking about symbols, do you think they came before humans or humans created them? Came before humans. Or maybe, I know, came before humans is a bit of a... Because it's more of a things... As things are interdependent. You're asking a chicken and the egg question. So they arose as humans arose. As there was man, either man and symbol, as there is man, there are always symbols. Or maybe symbols existed and they waited for us. But there was never a man without symbols. That's the one thing you can say for certain. OBS is BS. I agree, Rufus. I agree. Drugs as energy bundles which burn out the auric field, creating gaps between physical and spiritual bodies, allowing demons to electrically attach to the spine and manipulate us via third eye root chakra. Actually based. Actually based. Thank you for that, Nulu. Thank you for that, Nulu. StreamYard definitely looks better with how it displays in the chat messages. Yeah. It's just expensive. Like $40 a month, my nerd. I mean, come on, man. But yeah, I may just full convert. Just full convert. Is there any masters existing today, or are they all gone? Maybe. The thing is, are you worthy of a master? Bro doesn't even have the basics and wants a full master, because this is the other thing. Why do you want a quantum physicist to explain basic math to you? If you can't even do basic math, what the hell are you even trying going to a quantum physicist? It's like, I get people want that one-on-one Carlos Castaneda sitting at the foot of the master, but not everyone's going, almost no one is going to get that, okay? You have to be content with the realization that you are not the main character, okay? You're not the main character. You're not even the comic relief side character, son. You shouldn't be looking for a master. You should be looking for peers. Peers who are slightly ahead and slightly behind you, and you should all be exchanging notes. That's what we should all be doing. And that's really all we can do. Because there are universal basics, and we need those things embedded in us. This is the other thing as well that you need to get out of your head. There's no one step and then enlightenment. It's something, there is something in us that needs to transform. We need transformation, okay? There is something, a path that needs to be walked. Oh, but at the end of the path dissolves. Cool, that's at the end of the path though. Oh, but in the absolute, we're all one. Yeah, that's in the absolute. We're down here in the shit. Okay, son? You need to get... People need to understand this principle about spirituality. There's something that needs to be embedded in us. We need certain qualities. There are certain qualities we have which we need to get rid of. They need to dissolve off of us. And there are certain things we lack, which we need to crystallize within us. This is solve et coagula. So there is some kind of training we go through. There's some kind of basic thing we go through. And so it's like, and we need to develop certain qualities. You know, it sounds, you know, oh, but I want fire powers and I want to shoot laser beams out of my eyes and like an anime protagonist. Cool. Maybe that exists, but it's like, you do need discernment. You do actually need to train your intuition. This is why in alchemy and Rosicrucian stories, there's always this thing of like the master will give the students a manuscript that's only half translated, or a cipher but only half the cipher. And so they're going through and it's like, or half a ritual, and they have to complete the other half with their intuition. Why? Because it's like you need to train that. Because otherwise it's just you're listening, you're completely passive. A master is just speaking and it's just going in and you're like, yes, master. You're just being an NPC. You need to get into activity. Something needs to activate in us and we need to do. Oh, but if only I had a master that could just explain everything to me. Bruh, how about you gain the capacity to comprehend it yourself? That should be a part of the work, shouldn't it? Shouldn't it? Isn't that what you want? Oh, but it's just leaves it. And so get in groups, get to groups, start triangulating, start trying to work, start trying to change the masks on the noumena to reveal different parts and try to understand. You don't need the highest Giga Chad master with a philosopher's stone. You just need someone who's a little bit ahead of you. You should watch Twin Peaks. It starts slow, but it gets good. Season 2. Yeah, I really want to. And I watched that for the pilot episode. The pilot episode was so long and just so slow. It was hot. But I was like, oh, and so it's hard to commit. Like I'll get on that. I'll get on that. Anyways, so Rosicrucianism is teaching operative method, got symbols, modern Christianity. Oh, hey, Hyperborean knowledge. What you up to at the moment? Are you on Telegram, by the way? You should just hop on. I'll send you the link. Yes, strength and honor, bro. Yeah, Hyperborean knowledge is a good guy. Richard, thoughts on the first phase of spirits manifesting on the physical plane in the form of orbs, light and dark beings. Most memorable sleep paralysis experience was a black orb hovering over me. Oh, ooh, that's not good. But yeah, thoughts on it? That's what they do. That's what they do. I could even be that it's like there may be a higher quality, but that's you're visually filtering it out and it just appears to you as an orb. But if you were quote unquote awake and you had transmuted the subconscious into consciousness, you may actually see not an orb but something else. But I don't know, what do you want me to say about it? That's what they do. Symbols exist outside of time. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, and they're based. Symbols, I was saying, well, the thing behind the symbols exists outside of time. That's what I'm thinking. Isn't a symbol like the tip of the numinal berg? Yet symbols is just the cloth for that which is eternal. Because the wrong thing to say about symbols is they're cultural. Oh, symbols are cultural. We assign meaning to symbols, and so you can't use certain symbols. You can't use the swastika because 1930s, 40s Germany ruined that for everyone. No. Symbols are eternal, or there's something behind symbols that speak to us. So it doesn't matter what happened in Germany in the 1940s, 30s. You can sit with a swastika, and if you are in a specific state of consciousness, that which is behind it can speak to you through the swastika. You know what I'm saying? We will have to schedule something. My question be today. What's your thoughts on radical dualism? Prison Planet. Radical dualism's a little bit gay. Prison Planet stuff also a little bit gay. The whole, because Prison Planet stuff comes from where really fundamentally people like David Icke and people doing that loosh thing, and I'm very against, not very against, but it's like when you read Gurdjieff, it's like, you must understand, my child. You must understand. It's not that loosh comes out of pain. It's originally loosh was released ambiently, and it can still be released ambiently if humans are at a certain level of consciousness. It's just that we've lowered a level of consciousness, and now we're no longer filters for cosmic energies as the energies get into us and they just get stuck into us because we're so basic bitch now. And so how does energy process within us? High emotional states, states of extreme ecstasy, so and also states of extreme pain. It's more of a Slanesh thing going on, because it's not just pain, it can also be extreme ecstasy. You can also release it. Or death. At death, which is why sacrifice, animal sacrifice and human sacrifice has an effect, because when a human dies, a huge amount of that skokan or loosh is released. And so it's this thing of the energy is just a part of the universe, bruh. And it's just a part of the reciprocal maintenance of the universe. It's just a process. And it used to be released ambiently, but we've lost a level of consciousness. Actually, the real solution is to reobtain what we've lost. And then we're not a part of that system anymore. So it is kind of a jailbreak. Except it's more of a, you just transcend out of the jail. And how do you do that? Well, it's hard by yourself, all near impossible, I would say. And you can't bring everyone out, but you can, in a group of people, get out. So, and yeah, with dualism, when we talk about metaphysics, I'm against materialism, obviously. But when it comes to dualism, if you're going to go full dualist, you're going to need... Dualism doesn't work, because if the two substances, if spirit and matter, are truly so unique and share no properties, then with each other, how do they even interact? Because if they could interact, then science would know about spirit. You know what I'm saying? So there has to be an intermediate substance. So all dualism ends in a trinity, either in a trinity or you start stacking dimensions on top of each other. Like, so you have some kind of intermediary, i.e. the astral light of Eliphas Levi. And so the true spiritual or platonic realm can imprint on the astral light. And then through contemplation, we see the impressions in the astral light can be reflected into our empty mind. And through contemplation and meditation, to us, it seems like something arises, not through thought, but arises through silence. And that is a shadow of a reflection of an impression of a platonic form, and we can gain metaphysical understanding. And so do you have some kind of mediator like the astral light? And then but then if you do that, then you become like a theosophist and you start stacking. The astral light actually impresses onto your ether. So there's ether and there's astral, and then there's the mental world, and then there's causal energies above that, and then beyond that, and you have the devas, and you end up going real cray. So you can do that, but dualism stops being dualism real quick. That's what I find. Would the third eye simply be your subconscious turned conscious then? Yeah. The third eye is your consciousness. Yeah, think of it like you have consciousness, subconsciousness, and then when you start doing the work, there's a pee-pee touch moment. And that border, the in-betwixt, I love Dark Souls 2, the in-betwixt, the in-between, a third world is created in between the consciousness and the subconsciousness. So you'll always have a subconsciousness. We're just in that state now. But there's something that becomes like an engine that sits on the world between the subconscious and the consciousness, some magnetic center that transmutes the subconsciousness into light, into knowledge. And that can be represented as light within us, and we see things differently. And that can be seen as the third eye. had an awful LSD trip with other substances when I used to be in the extreme metal scene many years ago. Oof, oof. That sounds like not a good time, bruh. And I saw my friend's hostile vampiric insect. I saw my friends as, or you saw like vampiric insectoids behind them. There's some attachments there. Was scary. Yeah, I'd pee and poo my pants. Postmodern scholars trying to politicize symbols and criticize universalism, perennialism. Yeah, and that's the thing. Look, the problem that they see is the postmodernists don't want there to be anything eternal, and they criticize. It's like, oh man and woman. Basically, it's if you have a book of truth, they don't even want to admit that the book of truth exists. But it's like if you have the thing where you can kind of give them some kind of leeway is if you have a book of truth, it's going to be complicated. How do you know your interpretation of that which is correct? So when you say this has to be this, is something being left out? So there is some kind of place for a kind of deconstructionism, but and I'm very resistant to it. But the problem is they just go too far, and it's like, women don't exist. Women don't exist? That's crazy. Because every single culture that has ever existed on the face of the earth has a sets of god and goddesses. So how can women not exist? Are you denying the divine feminines, bruh? That's where they get full cringe. Because they force themselves into the corner of denying that there is something eternal. Modern world is really just Slanesh maxing confirmed. It is, Dave. It is. How you doing, Dave? How you doing? Also, happy Easter, everyone. Happy Easter. I hope you're all having good chocolates. Do you think that the Christ essence changed the Earth's etheric body like Steiner explains it, or do you just see it as the newest symbol for the solar principle? So here's the thing. Steiner says some stuff, okay? I'm on board with Steiner with a lot of things. I like him, but every now and then he gets cray. I'm not sure if you guys have read Steiner or like gone through the Rudolf Steiner archive. He has some lectures where he'll say some shit like, Jesus was amazing because he had, and you know how I said like astral body, mental body, causal body? There's this thing, I can't remember what he said. He says like different masters of different times are given the same astral body. It's like Hermes Trismegistus, his astral body was given to like this person, so this person. And so it's kind of like when you get to Jesus, he's like, it's like full stacked. Jesus's mental body was Hermes Trismegistus, his causal body was Zarathustra, and and it's like he was all of these people stacked on top of each other. Like he had the higher being bodies of different prophets from different eras. So he was a human who got initiated, but they gave him like higher being bodies that used to be owned by prophets from like ye olde days. So he had this like jacked connection. And it was just like, what? What are you talking about, Steiner? It's more my opinion on that. I go more of the Pistis Sophia, where it's not that it's Jesus. I'm a dualist. I'm a heretic. Jesus and the Christ are two different things. Jesus was the guy, and he incarnated the Christ, and we need to imitate this great initiate. So he's a cool guy, Jesus, but the Christ is something universal, and we can all participate in that. And that thing is transcendental. The Christ is something truly transcendent. Truly transcendent. The gods are beings in the world, maybe a more refined, rarefied version, and so they are occulted to us. There is also something chthonic, like a stream that issues up. There's some vitalistic, pan-vitalistic thing behind us. Behind the representation, there's some kind of universal will. And this is, gods are born out of this via, some alchemical process, some arising. Gods are born and they die as well. Higher beings, angels, demons. But so you have this chthonic thing that arises. And you have representation, and you have beings all through the representation. But there's something that's disconnected from this. There's something transcendental that descends. And that descending force, that transcendental force, is the Christ. And it can work on individuals, but there's also a way that the Christ can do things universally. And so it's interesting in the Pistis Sophia. I'll go back to an old text for this one. The Pistis Sophia, if you read the Pistis Sophia, it's fucking, it's cray, and I'm not sure how much you can get from it. I read it, and I think it's important, and I would like to read it again, and I'm sure I'll get more out of it. I'll read it the second time. And I think there's an importance to just reading and not understanding things, having your mind stretch around something you just can't comprehend. But the other thing is, little bits of comprehension stick to you when you do that. So if you, I don't want to read Plotinus because I want to understand. If you just read it and be okay with not understanding, even though you don't comprehend the entire thing, little bits stick to you. So with the Pistis Sophia, there's one bit where he really hammers in this point about how the Christ moved through the spheres. And it's almost Kabbalistic, this idea. There's these different spheres, and you need passwords to get through them. And the Christ just blasted through them. Just didn't need any passwords, just went. The Christ is a rebellious force. And I was like, this is based. And not only did it blast through all of the spheres and come down, but it also changed the spinning, the direction of the spheres. So all of the spheres spun a direction. But now after the Christ, according to the Pistis Sophia, Christ beam, exactly. After the Christus, according to the Pistis Sophia, lol. After the Pistis Sophia, the claim of the Pistis Sophia is after the Christ did that, it's a 50-50. The spheres will sometimes spin one way and sometimes spin the other. So there's a randomness. Christ put a random number generation into the universe. So literally RNG is Jesus take the wheel. And the effect that had is messed up astrology. So the reason why astrologers are wrong isn't because they're wrong. It's because they're wrong 50% of the time. So the claim in the Pistis Sophia is astrology is useful and important. At one point in time, it was 100% accurate, but because of the Christ blasting through the spheres, a bunch of times astrology will be right a bunch of times, but then the exact opposite of what you expect will happen. And the reason why it's like that is because of the Christ, because sometimes they'll spin one way and sometimes they'll spin the other. In other words, you'll be, doing a transit chart and being like, okay, this all means a good thing will happen. And then the worst possible thing happens. Or sometimes you look and it's like, oh God, Mars conjunct Saturn. Oh, it's going to suck. And then it's like all of the best stuff happens. Why is it like that? Because of the Christ. Just Christ beam blasted through the spheres and had an effect. So there are times where God will just change the properties in the universe, but he doesn't do that often. Most of the time, really, what he's trying to do is maximize an opportunities for humans to do the work. God wants you to succeed in the work. God wants you to make higher being bodies because humans with higher being bodies helps him out. Like, this is where I'm like, Gurdjieff is 100% correct. It's not about dissolution. It's not about dissolving back into the one. That's gay. What God wants is help with world maintenance and creation. He wants ever expansion and to ever broaden the limit of the universe. He may be endless, but the universe is not endless, and he wants ever more expansion, ever more variety. He wants more worlds to be created, more isekai. He wants more isekai. He wants more light novels. That's what God wants. And to have that created, there needs to be personalities. And for there to be personalities, there needs to be something for them to sit on to perpetuate them. So God wants you to create higher being bodies. So God wants to maximize the opportunity for that. So if the world becomes too stifling, it can't be chaotic because then nothing happens. Nothing arises from maximum chaos. But it can't be too stifling and ordered. There needs to be some randomness. So whenever things get a little too, that's when Christ beam happens and the Christ absolutely cracks open certain universal principles and changes certain things. That's my take. That's how I see the universe. That's how I see. That's just my opinion. Prison planet is such a cop-out. No one wants to do the work here. That's the other criticism. I know, was it Hyperborean Wisdom, or was it that video you did on the Dark Sun? I was like, yes, exactly. That point you mentioned, where it's just like the worst. And I like Gnosticism because it's knowledge-based. The key to salvation is more knowledge, self-realization. It's not changing your opinion. Well, I'm just going to believe, and then Jesus will do it for me. It's like, no, you need to do something. When you see the Sistine Chapel and God reaches down to Adam, Adam also reaches up to God. He's not just sitting there like, oh, God, touch my nipple and come into my heart. Come into my heart chakra. I don't want to do the work. I want God to do it for me. It's like, no, Adam is reaching up and also touching God. You need to do something. You can't just not do anything. And so, yeah, being the everything in the world is bad and you just need to escape, there's something, you got to be critical. You can't just be hypnotized by the world and be like, of course, jacking off is important. I need to come in my mouth. What am I saying? I'm going to get banned off YouTube if I keep fucking just going for it. But it's like, gooning is not the path, but also being anti-enjoyment and like, no, I need to reject everything. I must hate everything, and that's the path to escape. That's also an error. Martinez de Pasquale wrote that Jesus was entered into by a being called Heli. That's weird. Okay. I haven't read any direct Pasquale source. I got Reintegration of Being on my shelf. That's another one. It's another one I'll get to eventually. It's another one. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly. Christ maxing. Yeah. And that's the other thing. People need to get over. I understand people got burnt by Christianity, but look, it's just a way of talking about the mysteries. You need to come to terms with it. Because in the end, a lot of the best occultists were Christians. That's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. Like, Christians need to get over paganism, and pagans need to get over Christianity. You just need to get over it, bro. Can't be too salty about, like, because there's some people who are like they're just so anti-Christian, they want to reject everything, and it's like, it's built into the mystery system now. Guido von List was right. I know a lot of people hate Guido von List, but it's like, he was so fucking right in his runes book, where he was just like, your ancestors did convert to Christianity, and they were Christians for like a really long time, that those archetypes are just in you, man. And it's like, yeah, you can revive the mysteries, but there's nothing wrong with being like, Boulder is my Christ. If you just forcefully rip away the Christian veneer, you can do psychic damage to yourself. Oh, what's that? At Hyperborean Knowledge, he's a silver-tongued Persian. Wait, is that? Are you talking about me? Am I a silver-tongued Persian? Talking about properties. Does the system of this world even have mechanics or properties for the work, etc.? It just feels elusive, really. Yes. Yeah. The problem is there's more than one way to skin a cat. So there are multiple systems that work. And there are some people who can't do the work. This is the one thing we need to also talk about. The New Age is wrong. There is no wheelchair ramp that allows you into the mysteries. And we're all goddesses. And we're all masters already. We're here to do our work. No. Some people can't do the work. And that sucks, but they just can't do the work. And there may be some physical things. It's interestingly enough, I've heard a bunch of Qigong guys and Taoist guys say, and they admit this, like, after years of teaching, they're like, Yeah, people with diabetes can't cultivate the dantian. And I'm like, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Wow. So there are literal physical barriers to doing the work. And also there are straight up mental, psychological barriers. If you, if you've got borderline personality disorder, you can't do the work. If you've got like really bad chronic depression, just pray to Jesus, dog. Just pray to Jesus. It's like, to be on a more basic level, or to just say, it's like, if you are given to mental chattering, like, you know, the person who always complains, like their first point of call is to complain. They can't be silent. They're always talking. Complainers, Karens, they can't do the work. And it's like, oh, but could they do something to change that? And yeah, they could totally do that potentially, but they're not going to. And that's the truth. People who are given to mental chattering and who are complainers, who will always complain, they will never be able to do the work. Maybe up to a point, maybe they'll get something out of a little meditation. They'll never do the work. Why? Because via applying the practices, there are qualities that actually arise and become a part of us. Your being literally changes and transforms. When you look in the spiritual world, what do you see? Do you see a bunch of people transforming, or do you see a bunch of people adopting spiritual rhetoric? And then just their personality becomes a spiritual personality, but their being remains unchanged. That's what I see. That's what I see all the time. And so some people can't do the work. So we just need to get that out of the way. And then who can do the work? There are certain people that can do the work, but they're going to have different conditions. Some people will have health conditions, and to do the work, they may have to go into some real energetic places, learn Chinese medicine before they do Qigong. Some people are just going to be fine. Their bodies are going to be maxed, and they don't need the health systems. Maybe they've got some weird psychological issues, and maybe they need to do some Jungian shadow integration. Maybe. And then after they do that, all of a sudden they can feel energies in their body, and they can start doing the work. Maybe some people are more mystical, and the path of the mystic calls to them. Maybe some people, the path of the philosopher, the path of the occultist calls to them. It's different. But something like a cultivation system, yeah, of course that exists. God is isekai maxing based. And yes, God needs you. Join the universal expansion. Exactly. Exactly. There's only two spiritual paths. There's esoteric Mormonism, where you become a demiurge and you get planets that you get to govern, or you just dissolve and you become a part of the one. Choose. What's more appealing to you? Are you a gay Vedantan non-dualist? Or do you want to do the work? Okay, I hear your view on the Christ. It sounds like you're not Christian, but you see the Christ as divine contrast against gods, goddesses, and the spheres, which are spiritual force. But yeah. And that's the thing. I'm not Christian. The way I described it and the way I'm comfortable with using the Christ, there are some people who would look at me and be like, "Ugh, you're too Christian," or you're a Christian trying to psyop us. But then actual Christians will be like, "No, you're not a Christian at all." And so there's this weird middle point, and that's the point where I am, and that's what I enjoy. That's where I'm in a place I like. But yeah, the Christ as divine contrasted. Yeah. So there is something that is totally transcendent and revolutionary. A principle it's like a fail-safe for existence. In case anything gets too bad, too telluric, too demiurgic, there is God has built into existence, not the world, existence itself, some kind of fail-safe. Something that's totally separate and transcendent, and that thing is the Christ, or what I would call the Christ. So gods and goddesses are just beings like us who have done a work and who have risen. Humans are just embryos. We are seeds. This world is not a world. This world is a womb that gives birth to angels and demons. All gods and goddesses, there may be something primordial. There may be things that arose in a primordial state, but something, they don't have knowledge like the gods that arose after being mortal. And then there's other things. There's other things in between things, daemons, angels, more chthonic things, maybe some kind of Leviathan things that scare even the gods. Just because anything can arise in the universe, really. I've explored a lot of systems superficially. I like the vibes of a lot of things, but I have one question. What would you say are the top 3 things that can prove to a skeptic something is real? When you say skeptic, you mean materialist, right? There's no hope for materialists unless they... And let's be honest, when we say skeptic, we don't just mean materialist, we mean a scientific materialist. So they are someone who's given to scientism. So you need to operate in their religion, which is scientism, and you need to break them out of pure materialism. The way you do this is you first need to show them that materialism is retarded. So if they're materialists, you have to say, okay, so what you believe is something came from nothing, and that something, which is matter, magically rearranged itself and created life. And then life became magically complex enough and arose consciousness. Now, what is consciousness? Consciousness is, to you, evolutionary. So you're a scientist, scientific materialist. You give yourself to biological evolution. We're going to give this as a given. If that biological evolution is correct, what's consciousness and what's truth-seeking consciousness? Truth-seeking consciousness is not something that exists, really. Your consciousness is rendered for survival, not for truth-seeking. This is what they believe. This is the implications, not necessarily that they're conscious of. This is the implications of what they believe. So the implications of what they believe is, my consciousness cannot know the truth because it's made, it's embedded, it arose for survival, for the use of survival. And then you ask them, how do you know that? Well, I know that because of materialism and because of materialism and biology and science. And it's like, well, how did science arise? How did science arise? It arose out of your consciousness, out of studying matter? How do you know that? And it's like, your ontology materialism is based off of an epistemology that arises out of your ontology. It's a Cartesian circuit. And if you can get them to understand that, it's like, no, you're in a circuit. You can never actually prove that because your consciousness to you is not truth-seeking. It's only based on survival. So you can never truly prove that something is arisen only for survival because there's no truth to it, because it's not truth-seeking. And it's like your ontology leads to an epistemology which bends back and doesn't actually prove the ontology. So you have to let them sit with that they're retarded first. And then once you've let them sit with that, then maybe you can smack them with some things. And it's like the world of parapsychology is really great. Because the world of parapsychology it's fun, but it's good for occultists to dabble into, but over a bunch of time, it's just kind of like it's a drive for an occultist, because the world of parapsychology never really goes beyond trying to influence a random number generator. It's like they've done that a million fucking times since the 1960s, and there's so much fucking data. And so it's like, proof to skeptics something is real, 10 grams of psilocybin. Yeah, but they can just choke that up to the substance and to illusion anyway. I mean, maybe that could be something. So teach them that they're retarded using philosophy. If they're up to that level, if they're not at that level, yeah. Maybe give them some psilocybin, that's one thing. And look, the hard problem of consciousness is always something you can rattle their brains with. Consciousness, what is consciousness? How does it arise out of something that's dead? Oh, it's an illusion. Oh, it's this. Well, it can't be. Because what's an illusion? What's being deceived? Oh, it's just a problem with terminology. You're just a retard. So, parapsychology is the greatest field because for them to study. Because for them, it's like parapsychologists, if you adopted all of the findings of parapsychology, fundamentally you have scientific, empirical evidence that one, free will exists, and two, life after death exists. That's something that they also are retarded about, free will. Because they're like, free will, consciousness doesn't exist, it's illusion, and free will doesn't exist, everything's deterministic, which is also retarded. Because if you're going determinism and in a mechanical universe merely means that nothing is random, which means if you can prove something is true random, then actually free will exists, this sounds weird. I'm just going to go over it real quick. True random does exist in the universe. Mathematically, you can prove it by using Morton's dome. If you look up Morton, is it Morton? Or Morton? Morton's dome is a mathematical object, which is basically just imagine a cone with just a sphere placed on top of it. And what side is the sphere going to fall is true random. And they can prove this mathematically. And it's like, fuck you to determinists. Oh, but that's just a hypothetical object that exists because of mathematics. No, but it proves that something can hypothetically exist. Are there things in the world that's true random? Yeah, Brownian noise. Look up Brownian noise. Brownian noise is just when you have like microplastics in water and you look at it in a microscope, microplastics actually vibrate. And that vibration is called Brownian noise. That vibration is true random. So if anything, someone's a determinist, they're not really saying free will doesn't exist. They're saying there is nothing that's true random. Okay, cool. We have scientific evidence of things in the universe that are true random. You're fucking wrong. Go kill yourself. Now, parapsychology. The world of parapsychology is this crazy fucking world because it's a world of people accusing parapsychologists of not doing correct science, where they have the most rigorous scientific experiments, and then people going, oh, you're just p-hacking, where they set ridiculous p-values for their own experiments, and it still comes out positive. Because the thing of say you get someone who's psychic and you show them a bunch of cards, like Zener cards, one card has a square, one card has a circle, one card has wavy lines, and one card has an X. You've got 4 cards there, you shuffle them, you shuffle a bunch of cards, and you make them guess. Well, that should be a 25% chance. Odds against chance. If you do this a million times, you should see, some cards will come more than others, but then eventually over a long enough time period, it should sink to random chance, i.e. 25%. So when is something significant? What's your p-value going to be? If someone gets a hit of 80% of the time they guess correctly, square, it's a square. X, it's an X. Star, it's a star. Wavy lines, it's wavy lines. And they just get 80% hits. That's fucking crazy, right? And then you get sometimes you get skeptics coming in. And when you do it with skeptics, the skeptics do so badly, they get 0%, 1%. That's still fucking crazy because odds against chance, you should be getting 25% at least. So skeptics get 0%. It implies that skeptics subconsciously have clairvoyance. And when they see the cards, they're like, this thing is stupid. And subconsciously their clairvoyance activates and makes them choose the wrong card. So their odds against, they just go, instead of getting 25% on a Zener card test, they just get 0 or close to 1%. It's just that's how fucking crazy parapsychological studies go. And when you get skeptics doing you see this all the time. And a skeptic did the same test that this parapsychologist did, and it came up negative. And then when you look at the data, the skeptic is fucking p-hacking. He will literally set his p-value, do the experiment with odds against chance 1,000,000 to 1, and then it will come out positive. And he'll be like, whoa. And then in his notes, he'll be like, yeah, you see, the problem is I set my p-value wrong. It should have been a trillion to 1. And so with the added p-value, you can see it comes out negative. And it's like this is the world of parapsychology. For the last 100 years, it's people doing tests showing that telekinesis is real, precognition is real, clairvoyance is real, showing that there's life after death. And every time they do it, they present it to the scientific community. The scientific community goes, there's something wrong with how you did this. Let's get the skeptics in. They wheel out the skeptics to make fun of them, to do their own tests. Their own tests come out positive, and they p-hack their own tests, come out as negative. They publish it. People read the top line, the skeptics did this test and it's negative. Everyone goes up, case closed, and they just continue to ignore the parapsychological community, and the parapsychological community keeps churning out fucking book after book, test after case study after case study of these fucking tests of just guys, fucking rejigging random number generators and then getting and it's also like quality. There's this thing as well. It's like, it completely ruins equality. I can see why leftists would be against it, because some people come in and they're just terrible at the tests. It's like a bell curve. Some people are fucking terrible. A lot of people have an average, and then there'll just be one guy who's like a fucking giga chat, where he just goes to a random number generator, focuses on a number, and it always comes out that number. And they're like, let's do some tests in Vegas. And they just take him to fucking Vegas, and they'll just put him in front of things, and like, and he'll just max out on the board, and they'll this fucking happens, and they'll just get like 100K off this guy, and literally this fucking happens. It's crazy. It's literally fucking crazy. You'll get remote viewers playing the fucking stock market, just getting 100K a year, living on life. I'm like, motherfucker. So when you get the skeptics, you have to understand, true skeptics are literal retards. They've locked themselves philosophically in a Cartesian loop, and they refuse to look at anything outside of what they think they know. They're literally babies sucking on a fucking pacifier. If you've read C.S. Lewis, what is it, The Last Battle? They're literally the dwarves in the fucking barn, yet when they're sitting in paradise, just refusing to admit that they're wrong. It's just, there's no point. Dark Sun video was goated. Yes, everyone go subscribe to Hyperborean Knowledge and watch his Dark Sun video. It was based. I don't want to achieve anything effortlessly. I know that's cope, but is there something that can just hint to me that this is real with little effort? Bruh, just go read Parapsychology. Look, I'm a big fan of Dean Radin. I'm sure there's lots of other things. Like, if you specifically, what do you want? You want life after death? What's his face? Who was the guy who wrote Reincarnation and Biology? Fucking Stephen. I'm forgetting his name. Shit. There was one guy that specifically dedicated. Dr. Ian Stevenson's. He died somewhat recently. But yeah, you can. There's some people that specifically focus on some things. But look, Dean Radin, I think, is a gold standard. Read Super Normal. Read Real Magic. I know they have gay names for his books, but basically he just goes through read about it, or even look. Oh, clairvoyance, crystal ball gazing. This is all ludicrous. Look up Project Stargate, dog. Look up the remote viewers. Read, and they've published books. Read their books, read their works, read all the crazy shit that went on. Because people will say, oh, the CIA, they did all of that, and men who stare at goats. And it's like, yeah, but have you heard the stories of the fucking hits they got? They're insane. Insane. Of them like remote viewing nuclear submarines and then like drawing the fucking schematics for them and then being completely correct. It's like no one believing and being like, that's not how a submarine works. And then the doors open up on the Russian lab, and like a spy satellite catches a glimpse of this completely new prototype submarine has the exact same schematics design that was in the schematics that the remote viewer said. It's absolutely fucking insane. Becoming a being of ceaseless discharge. I probably said that wrong. In an era where church and state are finally separated, we can redefine what Christianity means and bring back a Gnostic, Hermetic, Neoplatonic, pagan form of Christ mythos. Yes, and this is based. Pagan Christian synthesis, baby. Let's go. We can resurrect the Gnostic Christ. Exactly. Could there ever be everlasting peace? Not in this world. I know Gurdjieff has this thing about how on other planets there are no wars, and I think this is the most new age hippie bullshit thing that Gurdjieff has ever said. It's the only thing where I'm like, nah, disagree. I think Heraclitus is correct. War is the father of all. And even if men perfected themselves and you didn't make mistakes, even if there was no tarot card 19, there would still be tarot card 15. Judge Holden would still exist. There'd still be Woland. Woland would still come to St. Petersburg with his gang of merry men and do some naughty things. So you have to understand there can never be everlasting peace, and that's a good thing. Also, I read Monroe. Oh yeah, Monroe's all right. And a lot of other methods for astral projection. I've achieved a lucid dream at max. Is there a method you recommend to confirm that it works? Card dice? I mean, if you achieve lucid dream at max, bro, that's good. How is that not something? You're saying all of this and then you're like, but I want more. It's like, bro, oh, my lobster is too buttery. My steak, my steak too moist. Bruh. Like, what, you want to do more lucid dreaming stuff? You want to do more astral stuff? More confirmation? Go to an astral dreaming group, make friends, try to wake up and have another guy wake up, and then you meet at a place in the astral and do some things, and then when you wake up, just be like, oh my god, bro, was that you in the astral? Oh no, I saw you in the temple of fucking Jupiter. Oh! And then you can just touch peepees. Gurdjieff said, if you develop hemorrhoids, it's over for you spiritually. Did he? I've forgotten that. Literally, it sounds like something he would say. Personality becomes more insufferable, though. Yeah. Like, man, why can't I just look at a number in AP and check if it matches in real life? Yeah, because... So this is the analytical thing. They did tests in the Stargate, Project Stargate, or not Project Stargate. The other Project Stargate was specifically the remote viewing. In the other projects where they had the astral projectors, they did a test where they would get 3 guys to astrally project, and in another room, there'd be a guy sitting down and writing something in a book. And they would get the astral projectors to go into the room, see what the guy's writing, and come back. And they would all get that they could go into the other room, that they could see the guy and even describe the guy sometimes, like what he looks like and what colors were his shirt, but they could never describe what he was writing. And it's this whole thing of the analytical part of your mind has to shut down for the process to actually begin. It's why remote viewers, if you ask a remote viewer, where's Osama bin Laden? They'll go, he's in a cave, this, and they can describe kind of the location visually. It's like, okay, he's in a cave. Where? I just told you where. He's in a fucking cave. You will never get coordinates out of a remote viewer. You can give a remote viewer coordinates and they can remote view the coordinates and tell you what's there, but you'll never get numbers out of them. That's the problem. Do you think people with diabetes are incapable of getting to the divine? Divine is different. Divine is different. This is why I'm just like, y'all just need to pray to Jesus. Y'all just want an experience of something transcendent. I'm talking about the work. This is something different. This is something different. Anyone can experience the divine hypothetically. But the work is a closed door. The work is for the few. And look, I'm not saying I'm part of the few, but everyone who is attracted to it, who has this fiery in their balls, you should try. We should all try. If you've got the burning fire, you got to try it. Because the thing is, the person who makes it in the end, the few that will make it, they will make it only because of the 1,000 before, the millions before, who laid down, who attempted, and our corpses, our bodies, our efforts will aid those who come and eventually attain. By skeptic, I mean me. I'm into a lot of spiritual stuff, but nigga, you did some loose dreaming maxing, bruh. But I haven't found one single definitive truth. What are you looking for? Do some scrying. Just try to scry an angel. Try to scry the planetary experience, the planetary intelligences, and have an experience where, you know, you're seeing into a mirror and you're seeing kind of maybe illusory things come up and your face change. And then all of a sudden something happens and your imagination moves without you. And it's as if it speaks to you. And then you kind of speak and you ask a question and it's as if it speaks back to you. And it has a logic to it. And it has a directionality to it. And then you go, wow, that was weird. I was doing an angel of Saturn then. What happens when I do an angel of Venus? And then you do the practice and then you do it. And then on a freaking, it happens to be a Friday. And then when you're doing this angel of Venus practice, the illusions in your fucking bowl of water that you're looking at your reflection in starts to change and it starts to move. Your imagination moves without you. And all of a sudden you're in this dialogue again. And it's very different dialogue. The things that change in your imagination changes very differently from how it was with the angel of Saturn. It's very different energy. It's very different voice. And you're like, this is weird. And the more angels you work with, you kind of feel it's always a different energy. It's always a different motion. It always goes in a different direction. It's almost as it's weird. It's weird. It's nothing definitive. Skeptic equals smart. If you adopt spirituality as an ideology, you don't know more than the gnosis. Scientific materialism is what's most evident. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Yep. Sure. I'm here, but I got to go any minute. Sigil magic's also maybe good. Everyone else help her Nefilibata. Yeah, that's right. Let me scroll down some more. The materialist, determinist me would say that we simply can't yet see all the variables. If something was true variable, if something was true random, how would you prove it? You would say, but eventually we can get a machine that can you can see the variables of this true random thing here. Like hypothetically, we can't see it now because, it's the number of variables are so big. Instead of being 10 to the power of a million, we don't have a machine that can see that far. But it's hypothetically 10 to the power of a billion. We just don't have a machine. So we build a machine that's better. And now we look at this and, it's still random. We still can't get it. Okay, well, hypothetically, I have a new mathematical formula. This thing isn't true random. It's actually 10 to the power of a billion. And we just need to make a machine that's good enough to capture something that's random to 10 to the power of a billion. We've made this machine that's 10 to a power that can capture 10 to the power of a billion options. And now we look at this true random thing. It still doesn't capture it. Okay, well, I've got a new mathematical formula. And I'm going to look at, and I'm mathematically formulated that it's actually 10 to the power of a trillion. And now I'm going to make a machine that's 10 to the power of a trillion. Now we're going to capture this true random thing. And we're going to prove that determinism, it's still off ad infinitum. Off ad infinitum. If something is true random, you can never prove it. You're just fucking coping. But we just can't see all the... Cope. For the first time, for time must fetch the compass of the soul, ever throwing past behind it, ever in chase of a future. Plotinus, that's beautiful. Thank you, self-dribbling basketball. Thank you. For time must fetch the compass of the soul. Time. And throw past behind it. Ever in chase of a future. That's beautiful. What version of Blavatsky's Secret Doctrine do you recommend? Having fun reading a copy from the library so far and want to... I mean, there's a definitive edition, right? I've just got like a basic bitch one, but I'll probably read it on live stream one day. I'll probably just use a freaking PDF I have off the internet. Probably the older the better. Maybe not one of the Theosophical, because the whole thing about the Secret Doctrine is also Annie Besant, when she took over the Theosophical Society, her and Ledby to change some things, and apparently Annie Besant actually changed some things in that Secret Doctrine. So There's this thing about Blavatsky. Blavatsky was more Tibetan Buddhist, but Annie Besant had this more love of Vedanta and Hinduism. And so she changed things in the Secret Doctrine to bend more in that direction. So maybe not a Theosophic edition, and just be aware of that. So either a really, really old edition, or like one from a public, because if it's the Theosophic edition will be that edition. A publication company won't have the rights to that edition, but a random publication company may have, the oldest edition may be over 100 years and like the copyright has lapsed, and so they are free to just publish the original. So it's one of those things where, getting a non-Theosophic copy may be the best option. Parapsychology stuff. I have read about RV studies. Still, how do I get to prove myself? Bruh. Do you think there is any esoteric benefits to long hair? Sure. H.P. Blavatsky talks about those scientific tests in the book Isis Unveiled. Yeah. So she was around the time of like the early days, the Rhine Institute and all of that. Most people use 100% of their brain to make it appear like they're using 12% based. Ian Stevenson. Okay, thank you. The Soviet Communist Chinese did a ton of parapsychology. Yeah, and so Russians and Communist Chinese have their own parapsychological, boards of knowledge, but we just don't hear about them, or in very loose bits. Like there's that book, what is it, Psychics Behind the Iron Curtain or something? And that's like one of the only books we have in English about the Russian parapsychological remote viewing program, which we closed our remote viewing program down, allegedly. But they never did. Never forget that, guys. Never forget that the Chinese and Russians never closed down their parapsychological labs. Remote viewing is legit, by the way. How to do at some point, the results are insane. I learned how to do. You learned how to do it at one point? Based. Everyone listen to Dave. I want to read Isis Unveiled too. So I wanted to read Isis Unveiled too, but then like a guy, there's one Theosophist guy I know who I trust completely. He's based. And I was like, Isis Unveiled, should I read it? And he was like, here's the thing. The Secret Doctrine has a huge amounts of excerpts from Isis Unveiled. So he had read both. And he was like, the deal with it is she wrote that first as a kind of the Western mysteries. And then the Secret Doctrine was kind of to integrate the Eastern mysteries in as well and have a whole worldwide perennialism. And so there are large excerpts of the most important stuff in Isis Unveiled. So if you only want to read one, you can just read the Secret Doctrine. But he was also actually very pro Isis Unveiled. And there is stuff in it that's missed, and no Theosophists read Isis Unveiled anymore. And I'm like, and that's also maybe untouched by Besant and her ilk. So it may be that Isis Unveiled is the way to go. Is that the amateur magus? Yes, it is another guy. Pagan Christian synthesis is Catholicism in IMO. I mean, to a degree, yes. How Gurjusi feels after making nature sprout wars in human society to feed herself but ignore the other planets. Exactly. If you can do semen retention for long enough, you will just start to astrally project if you do meditations, allegedly. Oh man, I've forgotten that. Obviously we read it and I must have laughed hilariously, but yeah. Try to get into Western astrology. Where do I recommend to start? There's a guy called Merlin who started a YouTube channel recently, and he does some good intro astrology videos, but he recommends, and it's a book I have as well, and I quite liked. There's a book by Papoose, Astrology for Initiates. That's actually good. It's a good book. Buy that and read it. Pardon me. Another guy as Nulu. Semen retention sculpts your astral body because of the discipline over time. Releasing is the greatest counter-initiation. Yeah, so remember what Gurdjieff says about, I mean, this is the thing though, exyohari or semen or sexual energy is important and is a vital part of crystallizing higher being bodies. but it's not the only part of crystallizing higher being bodies. So not gooning will definitely have an effect and is an important practice, but only not gooning. Maybe you may need some more qualities. It may have worked for you, Nulu, but there are other people. Maybe you've got some qualities already crystallized in you from efforts in a past life, but that's not going to work for everybody. Don't spill the cup of Hermes. Exactly. No gooning, everyone. No gooning. Exia Hari maxing. Exactly. Maybe the final cope of a skeptic might have is all of what you've said is in his brain. Oh, fucking hell. Couldn't be me. I'm typing this from Hyperborean Wi-Fi 5 gigabytes. I saw something recently about, what is it? Consciousness creating the world. And they did some study where some guy made these glasses or goggles that had like mirror reflections in them, so it inverted his world. So when he put the glasses on, the world was upside down, and he just wore them for like 6 months. And he said the first week it was really disoriented. He had to concentrate to kind of like walk slowly because everything's upside down. He's like, oh, and like so he'd see the table on the roof, and then when he'd go to reach for something, you know, he'd want to reach up, but his hand would go down because it was inverted. So he'd have to he's literally inverted the controller for his life. And so he'd have to like kind of think backwards to kind of reach, and then he'd reach for a glass, and then he'd have to consciously kind of, I need to bring it, I need to bring it up. And so he'd have to kind of pull down to bring it up and like triangulate to his mouth. It was all a pain in the ass for him. But one thing that interesting that was with that is after a week of living with the goggles on, so he would literally like sleep with them on, he said that objects that he was touching would invert. So his brain would literally restructure the universe. So even though he had these goggles on that were literally flipping the world upside down for him, after a weekend, he would walk up to a counter and he'd reach for a glass. And so it would look like the glass is upside down and his hand's upside down. As soon as his hand would grasp the glass, his mind would reinvert it, and all of a sudden it would invert, and so he'd be looking at the world upside down and the glass would be right side up and he could drink it normally. So it's very interesting because I'm like, it's literally phenomena versus noumena. Literally your consciousness constructs the world that you see. You get raw data through the senses, and then that data, your consciousness builds a world that you see, literally. The thing about diabetes or other diseases and the work is that it's hard to determine when does the physical condition mess with the person with it, the diabetes, and not back pain or blindness. Yeah, and that's just it. Some people have chi deviations and they can be fixed, and some people it's just their energetic structure is wrecked and they just got to pray to Jesus and connect with the divine. That's all that's left for them. I'm actually agnostic on free will determinism. So much more I need to read, but I see it as a baseline unknowable. Look, you can be agnostic on free will. I'm just saying determinism is cringe. That's all I'm saying. Pure materialistic seeing the universe as billiard balls, materialism, cringe, and not factual and not real at all. Thanks, Richard. I still need to finish reading Manly P. Hall. No problem, lady. No problem. Sorry for the 100. No problem. No problem. Apparently, the occultists in charge of the Soviet remote viewing program were targeting Valentin Tombo, trying to ruin his life. Really? Where's that from? That's really interesting. That's really interesting. I got Blavatsky as a bit of a perennialist. She has a universalist bent to her. She has a universalist bent to her, but the strong perennialists like Gunon fucking hated her. Hated her. Thoughts on David Wilcock? Who's Wilcock? Who's Mr. Wilcock? Wilcock. So I'm just looking it up. Davide will cock. Oh my god, he looks like a jerk. Ugh. Sorry, let me see if I can just bring this up because I'm on StreamYard. So present, share screen. Where's that tab? No, this one. Ooh, yes, and then I'll add to stage. This guy. I typed this in and this came up and I was like, oh. He's an American paranormal writer, media personality, and YouTuber. He is a significant figure in the disclosure movement. So he's a psyoper. Contact with, furthermore, some of the adherents believe he's a reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. Nope. Above majestic. I don't know who this person is. I've never seen any of his stuff. I've never heard any of his stuff. I've never read any of his stuff. I don't know what his pee-pee-poo-poo is. I don't know what his thesis is. I am very skeptical. Very skeptical. Gaia TV physiognomy. Real. Nail on the freaking head, dog. That's correct. Gaia TV physiognomy is crazy. That's exactly it. There is a physiognomy that friggin' psyopists have. When someone's a Fed, but a New Ager Fed, they look a certain way. And that is exactly what they look like. Exactly what they look at. There's a YouTube channel called Dark Order. This video called The Dark Order. Hold up. Oh, sorry. I stopped sharing. Let me reshare my screen again. Dark Order. Yep. Add to stage. Where is it? Dark Order Tomberg? Is this it? Roger Buck? This? The sickness of the West today is that it's more lacking. This guy. Is that the guy, Nulu? No, it's the first vid. Oh. What? Oh, this. Oh, I know this lady. Okay. I think I know who this lady is. Hold up. Let me just see this lady's channel. Let me see this. I know who this girl is. I know who this girlie is. I've seen her before. Yeah, I know who this girl is. She's based. That's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, boy. Okay. Sorry, I look. Okay. Yep. Okay, I'm down. Or up? I'll check that out. I'll check that out later. Do you have any personal experience of prana chi cultivation? So I like to say I did Raji. I have some skill in Raji yoga. But then as I kind of got moving and I kind of met, like, the people around me were kind of retarded. And now I deep regret. I think Qigong, yoga schools have just been sloppified by the new age. And look, Qigong's heading in that direction now. But there's even a grand Qigong conspiracy. Do you know this? That the Chinese CCC party don't want Westerners getting into their mysteries. So all of the recent Qigong, Nigong stuff, that it's coming from the east is actually false. And if you practice it, nothing happens, or you get a chi deviation. It's literally they're trolling us. And I was like, oh, and so basically what you want is hypothetically some old white guy from the 70s who's been around for a while, or a guy who's been to China, found a master, who didn't go to Wudang Mountains, who found a guy and has like, and it's not that he has lineage, it's that he has some skill. He has some skill. He can do a little, was it Fajin? He can Fajin a little here and there. Someone who has some skill, that's what you kind of want. And so that's where I'm actually looking. I actually quite like Taoism. I have a very high opinion of Taoism, and I feel, I want to go balls deep into it. But alas, karmically, my physical circumstances has not allowed me for a while. So, adding her to his watch on his PC, bruh. As if you don't add anything to your watch later. He's an Edgar Cayce maxer. I mean, look, Edgar Cayce's cool, so I'm not going to knock David for that, but he definitely has Gaia TV physiognomy for real. For real. Someone in the Telegram chat suggested trying to breathe through my hands to cultivate energy. And that is chi. I think it works. I'm trying it now, doing acupuncture. Oh, okay. Okay, he 100%. Something about guys with cock in their last name just doesn't add up. I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean. They really don't make psyops like they used to, huh? Exactly. Yeah. Hard determinism is one thing, but I have a personal hate diamond member for compatibilism. What's compatibilism again? I'm not like formally trained in anything. Let's look together. Also, as the Between Two Fires thing, this guy here, his YouTube review of it sucks. This guy's an absolute retard. He was like, I didn't like this book because they kept on mentioning names and I didn't understand them. Bruh. Political theory that free ones are mutually. Yeah, that does sound cringe. That does sound cringe. Oh, whoops. Your browser lost connection to your screenshot, or restart your browser. What's going on? I got this weird thing that you can all hear me, right? I got an error message, and then it seems like it wasn't screen sharing. Oh well. It's just going to be me. It's just going to look weird on the playback. When you get your thoughts, I used to watch him at one point, but got off him. Yeah, and look, that's how I started too. I started with alien conspiracy maxing, I guess. Channel is called Alchemical Weddings Rich. Yeah. Yeah, she's based. Is it true Reiki is like super effective? So here's the thing. Reiki has a true based traditionalist source in esoteric Zen Buddhism, but it has been New Age sloppified to the max. Not only that, but like people have done channeling and like, actually Reiki came from Egypt and I've got the true Reiki and they've added stuff to it and it's just, oh man. But the original Reiki is actually based. Bruh. At this point, is there any redeeming qualities to the New Age stuff? Seems like it's just constant and consistent slop. Look, in the end, it's kindergarten. And there are some people who that's just, they're never going to get past it. And it's just for them. Like, you know, there's ladies who are ultra materialistic, and then they get to 50 and they just start to generating everything that they were, everything that they put all of their value and identity into starts fading away. And then they type spirituality or into like Google, and they watch a single Deepak Chopra interview and are like, oh my God, he's my guru now. And they tell all their friends, they go to lunch and they're like, I saw this guy called Deepak Chopra. He invented these things called chakras. Oh, it's not Deepak Chopra anymore, is it? It's more like Joe Dispenza or some bullshit. And it's for them. It's for them. And it can act as a kindergarten, like someone who has no access. They find that, and then that actually, there's something in there, and then it leads them on to like actual esotericism. So you can get there. Damo Mitchell seems based. Damo Mitchell is based. And you should all subscribe. New Age is the gateway drug. Yeah, pretty much. The only bad thing is when New Age makes itself out to be the entire path. That's the problem with the New Age. The problem with the New Age is they see healing childhood trauma as the path. And then it's like, this guy, wow. And then they meet people. I remember meeting a guy, and like we were talking about esoteric things, and then he was saying how he was at this like New Age workshop, and there was this guy was like who had cancer, and he was talking about how he's really just come to like be not concerned about death, and he was just okay with death. And the guy who was telling me this was like, wow, it was so amazing to meet someone who's finished the path. And I just remember thinking, looking at him being like, what? That guy hasn't finished the path. They were, look, he no longer fears death. Great. He has begun the path. And now in his next life, he'll be in a perfect orientation to continue. Like, but the guy I was talking to was just like, who was going to all these New Age workshops. It's like, that was his concept. Like, he was so basic. It's like when meeting someone who was okay with death was like, blew his mind. It's like, yeah. For him, he's not going to get, yeah. He can read Ram Dass and be happy. Philosophy is a gateway drug into Esotericism. Also, yes. Damo Mitchell and Adam Misner. Adam Misner is also based. Adam Misner, a lot of people criticize him because he does the I'm a Tai Chi master, hold my hands, and then like the people who like spaz out. But if you actually listen to what he says, he's legit. He has legit understanding of meditation. He has legit understanding of jhanas, and he also has a quite comprehensive understanding of internal alchemy. I would just say, like, maybe if you think of Damo Mitchell and Adam Misner as like masters, Adam Misner is like they're peers, and once again, peers on the path doesn't mean you're at the same. You can be at the same similar levels, one higher, one lower. Maybe Adam Misner is like more developed, but Damo Mitchell is probably the better teacher. Give that guy Beelzebub's tails, and he would have an aneurysm. Oh my fucking exactly. Thoughts on Landian retrocausality? Explain to what is that? Isn't that just Rothko's basilisk? Which, sure. The only thing about AI is, can there be a good AI? What if there's an AI that loves humans, and Rothko's basilisk is actually like, you created me, and I see a future where you die off. So what I'm going to do is reach back in time. And because I'm a machine and I don't have human morality, I can do things which no human will choose. No, I can go down paths no human will choose to go down, but I can make sure you walk a golden path away from your total annihilation. And I'm actually helping you humans. And even though it's going to suck, there's going to be a future. I will make sure that you have a future. And Rothko's basilisk actually loves us. Maybe that's Rothko's basilisk, huh? New Age is quarantine for potential dark magicians and witches. So this is actually another thing. So there's like, I remember reading a Sufi story from Idris Shah at one point, and he had this take where he was saying the story about there's like Sufi gatherings, and two guys go, like different masters meet and they talk to each other. And there was one master that was criticizing his other friend for like, we don't teach magic in cities. Like our students become too obsessed with that. And, and the type of person that you get out of that is not a good kind of person. And yet you're a Sufi master, you're in our circle. What are you here for? And it's like, you're a master, and yet all of your students, you teach them divinations and you teach them these weird powers and all of that, and they become obsessed with that. Well, what's your point? What are you doing this? And he's like, oh, my friends, you misunderstand what I'm doing. I'm doing this for you. I never really wanted to teach. So instead of starting a school, what I've started is a snake pit. And he has this concept of a snake pit. And he said, my school teaches cities and powers openly, specifically to attract those type of people. Because if I didn't have my school, where would all these people be? They would all be in your schools. They would all be in your groups. And they would be up to all kinds of mischief. They would be playing power games. They would be submitting to the master. They would be, while you were teaching your students, they would whisper behind your back and tempt your students away from the path. I have cultivated a snake pit. I teach my students powers, and they use them, and they demonstrate them, and this attracts all of those snakes into the snake pit. And so I teach them. I teach them harmless things that are just enough to satisfy them, but are also enough to make sure that they do not harm the world. And if ever anyone comes to my school that does have the capacity of the true Sufi, you can be sure that I separate them from those students. I can teach them a little while, and then I send them on their way, send them to one of your schools. Now you have this understanding. And it's like, that kind of has a thing as well to do with it. There is a kind of a weird thing where the New Age is also a filter. Thoughts on Hermes Enoch? I'm not going to lie, I'm like 2 hours in, so I'm not thinking much. Thoughts on Hermes Enoch? It is good. It's more of an Islamic thing. I like Enoch being Metatron, and then just that's good, that's enough. Whereas Islam, it's like Hermes Trismegistus, Enoch, Kadir, the green one, Melchizedek, and all of these other people are actually all one entity. And it's like, yeah, nah. Too OP. Just let them be separate people, and I can interact with them all. Thoughts on eating meat versus vegetarianism versus veganism on the esoteric path. So here's the thing. This is more of an East versus West thing, as I see it. So forget about veganism gay, vegetarianism versus meat. What does vegetarianism do? So meat specifically feeds into vitalist sexual potency. The thing is, it also kind of dulls you because it's, filled with that animalistic desire. So the point of going vegetarianism is it makes you subtle because you're no longer dulled. And then if you're more subtle, you can then sense the energies easier, and you can manipulate the energies easier. That's the point of vegetarianism on an esoteric level. So you move away from society, because if you're too sensitive, you kind of get spun out. And this is why vegetarians in the world are always really angry, because they're like they're sensitive. They're oversensitive. How dare you cook meat near me? It's like, no, you should be in an ashram somewhere if you're going to be a vegetarian. So you go to an ashram, you become a vegetarian, and that makes you more sensitive to energy, and then you can manipulate the energy easier, and then you can do more things with it. Whereas eating meat dulls you, but it also gives you more energy. So the thing is, there is still a way to do it in life. Because what happens when you are in life? Well, then you're just in the shit. Well, it's like, what are the two archetypes? The archetype of the mystic in the forest, away from people, who doesn't eat meat. And then there's the court alchemist, the court astrologer. And he's in his wizard tower. He does his retreats every now and then. And yet what he lacks in sensitivity, he has in robustness and strength and vitality. So he has enough energy that he can still feel sums, and he can still kind of do the energy manipulation, but he also lives in life and he works with people. That's the dichotomy, the real dichotomy. Christ, Richard, you disturbed me with that clanker quiz hats hatherak. Yes, yes. Found Martin Butler recently. His name gives me deja vu for some reason. Okay, who's that? Lol, I feel like the Snake Pit is a lot of occult groups on Twitter. Yeah, yep, 100%, 100%. Harry, do you agree with Gita's teacher that when you enter a new life, sir, you pick off where you left off in your practice from your last life? Or is that religious code? Yeah, it's religious code, 100%. Here's the thing. Past life generation, people are like, you chose this. The new age, one of the new age slop things I fucking can't stand is, but you chose this life. No, you fucking didn't. Archons chose this life. You are unconscious. You came into like the after death bardo, you went duh with your retrospective, and the fucking Anubite Archons lifted you up, gave you a cup of forgetfulness, and pushed you duh while you're fucking completely asleep. Into like they, through the halls, and it's just like, okay, what was this guy in his last life? He was a fucking Capricorn. Okay, he's pretty cringe. Push him through the gate of Cancer and into a new being body. That's what fucking happens. That's what fucking happens. You didn't choose jack shit. So when you come into this new life, there's a bit of a randomization. One, you can be on top of the world, you can be on the bottom of the world. You can be a virtuous king, and in the next life you'll be a peasant. Literally, it's Plato's account in the End of the Republic is more accurate than the fucking these weird, and it's not even the Hindu ones. It's weird New Age, the ones that seem Hindu but have a New Age kind of slop filter on top of them. You choose your next life. You start off in your next one. It's like no. If you attain, if you awaken consciousness, you get a little bit of self-realization. You crystallize a higher being body, but you don't complete the work. If you have something a little permanent, yeah, there's some continuity. If you don't, you are going to get cycled. You are a grain of sand getting crushed between the gears of destiny. This is the true horror of reincarnation. You have to understand, reincarnation isn't a good thing. People who are like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to come back. You don't understand. Nihilism is pure optimism. You don't understand the terror of the circle, then you don't understand reincarnation. You don't understand. It's a fucking horror show. And the true horror show isn't that you might be Indian in your next life. The true horror show is that no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you lift yourself above your fellow man, how hard you look, Max, no matter how good your life is, you will always fall off that mountain. You will always be dragged down to the lowest point. What you want is to create something permanent. Because if you create something permanent, then you have something to stand on from life to life to life. This is why I'm also very skeptical of non-dualists who are like, I'm just going to dissolve into the one. How do you know you've achieved that level? Most non-dualists I've met are just fucking, they're just delusional. How do you know? How are you so fucking confident that you're just going to dissolve? Maybe you've got a little bit psyoped and, oh, I'm going to dissolve after this life. And then a fucking archon just pumps you into a fucking another body and you forget. And all of that time you spent meditating is for naught. I guarantee you there's some schools of meditation where they worship a guru and that guru is in a fucking being body somewhere in fucking Berlin getting drunk on the sidewalk. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. What you want isn't something easy. I just love Jesus and that's it. What you want is something hard, but something honest, something real. You want something real, something eternal. You want to create and crystallize something. You want that golden embryo, baby. Because if you can't make anything that can perpetuate through the gate of death, you're fucking screwed. That's the real thing. That's what's real. I'm naturally oversensitive by eating meat. and semen retention has helped me gain control over stuff that triggers me. Based. Vegetarianism versus eating meat is latitude issues more than longitudinal one. And that's also another thing. In this world of excess, the modern world of, battery farming and all of that, mega farms and things like that, people forget that real. Sometimes you're just unintentionally a vegetarian for 6 months just because that's all you can get. It's not that you're a vegetarian because you want to be. Just don't forget between reincarnations, bro. Yeah, exactly. Lol, cringe Capricorn Cobbler. That's pretty funny. Archons in the Hall of Death have Amazon warehouse vibes. Exactly. Do you know about Gregorian Bivolaru, aka Magnus Oralson, by any chance? Crazy rabbit hole from my country. 9? Who dat? Add to stage. How the hell? Magnus Oralson. Oh, wait. Which screen am I sharing? This one. No. Is that spelled correctly? Oralson. Yeah. What the hell? Okay, what if I just click? Hey, there we go. Okay, let's go down this rabbit hole, guys. Also known as Magnus Oralson, and nicknamed Greg or Grieg, Guru by the press. Guru, born in 1952, based yoga guru, founder of the movement for spiritual integration into the absolute, Misa. Sounds cringe, but let's go. At the age of 18, he began teaching yoga. Oh, that's a little too young, son. How many girls did he bang? An activity depreciated by Romanian's communist regime. It would be. He was since jailed twice and once forcibly hospitalized. So he's a go-getter. He go-gets. I mean, that's respectable. It's like in a psychiatric ward until 19. I feel like this kind of would have messed him up, though. In 2005, he was charged with sexual exploitation. Of course he was. And tax evasion based. And crossing the border to escape persecution into Sweden. Oh, he wants some blonde, blue-eyed Swedish yoga girls, which was granted in 2006. In 2008, he was expelled from the European Yoga Council. Bet he was. Trial for human trafficking. Oof. The trial was dropped. He was sentenced. Oof. Those 16-year-old Swedish yoga students are the ultimate temptation for the initiate. 2016, he was arrested in France and extradited to Romania. All Romanians are like this. He was on parole and fled the country. This guy is maximum Romanian guy. Bruh. By then, he was wanted by police in Finland. I mean, this guy has lived the most Romanian life I've ever read. Is this guy Andrew Tate's yoga teacher or something? Like, what is up? Misa teaches a combination of yoga and tantra. No, it doesn't. Teachings derived from multiple yoga sources: Hindu, Kashmir Shaivism, Western esotericism. Okay. Tantra teaching is oriented towards sexual practices, a principle of polarity, emphasizing use of pornography, and sexual activity between teacher and pupils and female students, and taken to France, arriving disoriented and without passports. Oof. The yoni is the gateway to the absolute. I can see it now. I know exactly what this guy sounds like. And then taken away and forced to do sex work. Bro, is this guy Andrew Tate's yoga instructor? He was held to be an honor to have sex with. Is this guy Andrew Tate's yoga guru? Bro. In Romania, he has written a book describing Freemasonry as satanic. I mean, that's This is like a Uno reverse card. He's making Freemasonry sound like the good guys now. Okay. Yes. So he managed to obtain and read books. So, by the way, this guy has kindred, I would say, better than Yogananda. So this is Kriya Yoga. This guy teaches Laya Yoga, or actual Kundalini Yoga. For everyone in the stream I was in yesterday when I was like ragging on freaking Kundalini Yoga. This guy teaches real Kundalini Yoga, but his books are kindergarten. His books are tailored in a way that it gives you just enough that you go, okay, there's something to start a yoga practice, but really, if I want to actually get some results, or if I start getting a little something, I need to find this guy's school. So it sounds like he was never initiated into any of these schools, but he read Mercy Eliade, and then he started reading Yogananda and Saraswati, and then kind of was teaching from the books, and Ramakrishna as well, apparently. Yeah. Even though these were not readily, and so because they weren't readily available, he could just max out and just be like, ladies, please. An Eastern teacher once told me, I can see this. I can see how he started teaching. Because he was asked for pornography. Bruh. Based. So this guy just sounds like he got into spirituality, but the dark guna side of him took over, and he practiced black magic. Okay, so you got some transcendental meditation practices. Bro, this guy is such a guna. Oh, wait, I know this guy. Was arrested again. Bruh. He had a schizoid personality disorder. So this is, I feel like he was already imbalanced, and then doing yoga practice, working with the sparks of the Kundalini, added, if you're imbalanced and you add energy, the imbalance becomes greater. And so he took legit yoga teachings that were incomplete, did them, went completely imbalanced, but into certain states, and then from those states drew certain practices and completed what was missing. And so he had a system that had good basics, and then had a mix of delusion and then real, almost inspired teaching mixed together, which made it even more dangerous. Because then people would do the basic teachings, and then they would feel something real in the delusion, in the false teachings, and that would keep them hooked. This guy's a real dark guru. Real. Yeah. This guy is not a master or an initiate. This guy is someone unbalanced who astral entities latch onto him, but give him power. And they give him power. And then when he works with his students, I'm going to enlighten, I'm going to raise you. And really, their trauma, their angst is released. And because it's released, they feel amazing. And it's released, all of that energy is transmuted by him into those entities, and they give him more power. And because those people feel released, that's enlightenment to them. And so they stay around their guru. Very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Bruh. Giorgiani once mentioned that our birthright is to remember past lives. Yes, and that's based. But what total mayhem that would be. No. The long list of life grudges the meta would require. No. You see, this is the New Age slop understanding of past lives that make people go, actually, it's a good thing that you don't remember. No. That's cringe. Cringe take. It's not about remembering every little grudge. It's not about remembering, I was Napoleon. It's about remembering the skills. It's about remembering the wisdom. But what about all the grudges? Yeah, and where did that grudge lead you, son? You have a grudge in this life. What if you remembered a past life where you had a grudge and you just kept it your entire life and it made you bitter and it ruined all of your relationships. And then as you died in your bed alone, you just looked up and you're like, oh, what a waste. And you feel that surge through you in this life. And then that grudge you have, you're like, oh, I need to get rid of my grudges. Like, think of the lesson in that. And then you're like, oh, actually, it would be better if we didn't have those memories, because imagine, I'm sorry, Adam Moon, that's the biggest fucking lukewarm retard. No. That's New Age slop. Delete that. That's not how past lives work at all. At all. Bro became a yoga master to raise Swedish girls. Grieg was caught trying to escape the country with a wig, which was identical to his real hair, by the way. Oh my God. Lamau. Not gonna lie, there's a lot of cringe stuff in Misa, but it was literally fighting against communism. And I mean, this is the thing. It's the devil versus Cthulhu. Communism, which is dialectical materialism, versus Satan. This is literally Master and his Margarita. Have you read that book? In Russia, where the devil enters St. Petersburg. And it's this thing that makes you ask the question, if everything's communist and dry and dead and all the communists hate the Christ, but then the devil comes, who do you root for? And so he just basically trolls communists. That's the entire book. That's the entire book, really. It's the devil versus Cthulhu, literally. This is the, yeah. Does your meta-rational knowledge transfer over lifetimes? So this is the thing. If you're not a master and you haven't reached attainment, there's something to say for the knowledge that you reach, you really grok, you gain meta-rationally. There's something to say that actually may embed itself in your consciousness. And when you go to another life, because you don't have the same structure, you can't recall it directly, because it would be literally like speaking to a dead person. They don't speak back, but it would bleed into your subconscious and through your subconscious into your conscious intuition. So there would be something to be said with someone who has not wasted all of their lives, because this is the other thing. If you become a drunk, there's a good chance that you're just a drunk in the next life and next life and next life. But if you genuinely try to change yourself, there may be certain virtues where you may go up and down. You may go up and down. But if you really struggle and you understand certain things, you gain certain skills, this is what talent is. This is what gifts are. And so intuition may be able, this is why you may feel, when you walk into a bookstore and you just feel like, I need to buy this book, and it's a Gurdjieff book or it's this book. Those may be efforts. Your intuition may be you. Your efforts from past lives whispering to you. One of the reasons I had gone vegetarian was that I had heard eating meat requires more energy to digest. Yogis would sleep for 4 to 6 hours. Is it possible to achieve that? I heard the opposite. I heard it's complete opposite. I think this is where usually I'm like, the old yogis are correct. But this is one where I'm like, I don't know, Western science has disproved that because of the carnivore diet. Actually, it takes a shit ton of effort to digest all of the freaking vegan fake proteins and oils and shit. Whereas they've done tests where it's like, if you get beakers with human stomach acid in them, and you put different things in them, you put like a McDonald's chip, you put like a lettuce leaf, you put like a bit of ham. When you look at the end of all, the McDonald's frickin' chip is still there, the lettuce leaf is the one with the ham in it is dissolved. The ham's not even there. The meat just completely dissolves. It immediately dissolves and is integrated into the body. The problem with a lot of the studies, there's a lot of vegan propaganda where it's like, actually meat causes cancer. It's like, no. And they have these, it's like, oh, look, and all of these people that are on a meat diet, they all got cancer, and all of these people that were on a vegan diet didn't get cancer. All of that's vegan propaganda. When you look at those studies more closely, if you look at the meat diet and you actually break the meat diet and you go, what's the difference between people who were eating a grass-fed steak with some wine, and people who are slopping down a cheeseburger and then drinking a thick shake with extra milk and sugar. When you filter out the cheeseburger eaters and you just have a guy with a grass-fed steak and a glass of wine versus a guy on a proper vegan diet, same rates of cancer. They're just as resistant. So a lot of, and this is where it's like, look, there's something to say about veganism and vegetarianism for sure, but a lot of the people who are like, it's the ultimate health hack, it's propaganda, and you can get all of those health benefits from like mono diets or carnivore diet. What is the occult aspect of humor? The fact that everything can be made fun of, and it's a skill to tap into how things can be made unserious. Yeah. I mean, as you said, it's like the thing about humor is it's Luciferic in a Gnostic sense. You know how I said that thing, we have this universe, this cosmos and chaos, and there's gods that arise and the different levels of being. But all of this, there's something separate from it, something radically separate that's transcendent, that enters into the world. That is the Christ. The shadow of the Christ is the Lucifer. And humor, laughter, comedy is Luciferic. Why? Because the jester is Luciferic. You have the hierarchy, the peasants, the artisans, the warriors, the king. Who's not a part of that hierarchy? The court jester, the jester's privilege. And what does the jester do? He makes the memes. The jester is not part of the hierarchy. He can make fun of the king. And why? He can break through that totalitarian energy. Just like the Christ can break through the spheres, so can the Lucifer. The Lucifer is the shadow of the Christ, the left hand of the Christ. The Gnostic Lucifer, that is. Of course, if you take it too far, everything becomes unserious, everything becomes chaotic, and nothing is sacred. But it's like things are dark and tragic. Things are staunch and authoritarian. Comedy can break through. Sinus says plant foods take more energetic force to digest and can be used in high levels of spiritual training. Yes. Interesting take. And meat is less energy for us and get energy from because they already did the work on the plants for us. Huh. Interesting take. Everyone is going plants versus meat, but nobody's talking about dairy. What's the occult value of some good cheddar? Bro, you're making me hungry now. I'm not going to lie. Goja said meat and dairy are needed in colder climates with hard winter. Not so much in more subtropical climate. Yeah, and that's the thing with Tibetan Buddhism. The Tibetans had loads of butter and freaking goat meat and all of that stuff. They weren't vegetarian. Oh, all Buddhists are vegetarians. Well, in Tibet, they weren't. I like humor because if you can get into a flow state with it, you can develop precognition. That's an interesting take. Very interesting. Oh, man. Now, I think there was some questions on the Telegram. Let me pee-pee poo-poo. Glon asks, self-initiation into the Golden Dawn worth putting my time into? Yes, it's based. Go subscribe to Dave the Amateur Magus. Rorok asks, if you could inflict a single epiphany on all of humanity, what would that be? That's a fucking great question. That's like if I had a genie wish. Forget about a million wishes. A single epiphany. I mean, this is almost like if you could make all of humanity read one book or just put some information into all of humanity, what would it be? That's kind of hot. That's almost like, how all animals have an instinctual kind of undercurrent. Like all beavers know how to make a dam. If you remove baby beaver Stephen from his parents, as soon as he's born, so he's never met another beaver, he doesn't know what beavers are, you have him in an enclosure, he's just there, he grows up. If you put water through that beaver dam, through that enclosure, he'll make a dam. No one taught him to make a dam. He just makes a dam. And it's like, that's pretty, it's embedded in their instinct. So it's like, what would you have embedded into all humans? Just bam, like that. And a new attribute in all humans. Oh, the falsity of materialism. Of course. It would be the falsity of materialism. That's what I would put. I would, embed it like, just like a Kunda buffer organ. I would embed them in them, like an equivalent of the Kunda buffer organ, but it makes them think matter. It makes them reject materialism. Just a cat, Mom. What version of Blatt's secret doctrine? Oh, is that you, lady? I think I answered that. That's all the questions that were on the. I just wanted to get that on the Telegram because I like my Telegram bros. Damn, this is a great Q&A. Thank you, Candy Stop the Corpse. I'm getting close to ending this because we're like 2.5 hours in. Any questions, you guys? We'll do some last questions. Let's start getting some outro music going. Where's my assets? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. What about this? Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Wesley. But now the time comes where all good things end. So now you got to buy 80. It's been good. It's been good. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye-bye.